Hey guys, today I'm going to be giving you a tutorial on how to draw fur. I've drawn this before, so let's go. Okay, so I've picked out the reference and I'm just grabbing the paper that I'm going to use, and the edging would not come off, but anyway. And then I'm just going to tape it down. I got this new tape that I mentioned in my other long video. And I like the size of it better. It's a little bit too thick, but it's just easier for me because I don't have to measure it. Anyhow, you don't have to tape it down. I just like doing that. You can just do it in a sketchbook, but especially because I have a black background that I'm going to color the whole thing, I want to be able to have tape as like a barrier kind of thing. And then I'm just tracing this on Procreate so I know what shapes I'm going to use. I'm doing this all on Procreate. It is a $10 app that you can get on iOS, Apple products. And if you're doing it on a phone, you can get Procreate Pocket, but you might want to get a stylus. But if you do not want to spend $10, if you don't have Procreate, there's this app called Adobe Fresco, which is free. I don't think it's as user-friendly as Procreate, but you can still pretty much do the same thing. So if you want to import a photo and do the same kind of thing that I was doing on Procreate, what you're going to do is you're going to do my size, and you have to log in, by the way. And then you're just going to move it, and then you can see right here, there's a image icon. You're going to press that, and then you're going to select photos that you want, and then yeah, that's how you do it. And then if you want to rotate it, you can go like that. Make sure it's even, and then drag it to be bigger, and there you go. And then you want to select done, okay, and then you can just sketch over it, and it'll automatically create a new layer, which I really like about Adobe Fresco. Okay, so I have done like the basic shapes of the dog, and so I just did a circle. These are basically the guidelines. So I did a circle, and then that way I can kind of estimate where the ears would go, a little bit inward towards the circle, and then in the middle of the circle I just did a line, and then that's going to be where the mouth and nose is, and then in between, the same distance between the lines is going to be where the eyes are. As I said before, I have drawn a dog before, and he had shade of fur, so it wasn't actually as hard as I was expecting, but let's get back into the sketch. So you can just kind of follow along. I will be doing a voiceover. This is basically how the sketch is going to go. And I also like to use lines. So obviously the ears aren't like that. Oops. But I like to use lines because then it's easier, and I can like smooth it out later. Okay, so I'm starting off the sketch, and I'm using the same kind of shapes that I was doing at the beginning, and I realized that I made the circle a little bit too wide, and I did end up fixing that, but I am using lines, like I said, and I'm just trying to do my best. Okay, so a lot of things that I'm doing during the sketch depends on what kind of dog you're drawing, or what kind of animal you're drawing, whatever. But a lot of the same things will work. You just might have to change it a little bit. Like the circle won't be as round, or will be more kind of trying to explain it the best as I can, because I don't know what kind of dog you're drawing, what kind of animal you're drawing. I have to do the guidelines that I was talking about, because that will pretty much work for anything. I do it for humans as well. You just kind of want to look, because the nose on this, like if you want to find the top of it, you just kind of want to measure out towards where the ears are, and then you can kind of find that. And then you just kind of want to look and see, like, okay, so for mine, the nose is right at the bottom, and then the eyes are going to be in line. So the beginning of the eye, the corner of the eye is going to be right here. But you just have to look for things like that, and that's going to make your drawing a lot easier, and you're going to be able to freehand better. The sketching portion actually didn't take me that long, and it was really easy with the guidelines. So remember when I said that you wanted to have Procreate or Adobe Fresco? That is going to come into play right now. So I like Procreate better. That's just my preference. I'm just going to use Procreate, but I will show you how to do the same thing on Adobe Fresco. First, I'm going to show you how to do what I'm about to do on Procreate. We're going to choose the colors, and so this is just going to help us get the right colors. So basically, if you're using Procreate, all you have to do is use your finger and hold, and then you can move it, and this is just going to be the color picker tool, and you can find any color you want. So let's say we wanted to find the darkest color, and it's actually just dot it, increase the brush size, and then you do want to make sure that this is on a different layer so that you can take it off, and then you can just see the original. You want to use the image in your photos or the sketch, because it doesn't change sizes. But now that you've got the sketch down, you can pretty much alternate between the two if you want, or I'm just going to be using Procreate. So that's pretty much it. And then if you don't want to do that, you can use your app, and so you can also press this, and then the color picker tool will appear, and then you can just move it wherever you want. Okay, so now for Adobe Fresco, and it's actually super easy as well. So this is the color picker tool right here, and then this is going to show up, and you're just going to search pretty much the same way as before on Procreate, and then the color will change, and then change the brush, all that kind of stuff. You can choose the type of brush. I'm just going to go basic. This is pretty much the same kind of brush I was using as in Procreate, And yeah, another thing is the colors may show up different based on the background, based on what it's being compared to, but it's going to be the same color no matter what. And you want to make sure that you go with the color that it looks like when you swatch it. Going back to Procreate, and I'm just finding all the colors that I'm going to use for the drawing. That I do want to say is this step is optional, like the color picker kind of stuff, everything like that. Like, you do not have to do the guidelines. You can just sketch it from the image. I'm just going to try and make it as easy as possible for you. And if you do not want to go through all the work of like downloading the app or whatever, I just like to do this because you want to get as many colors as possible, because it might seem pretty annoying, but it's going to add to the level of realism. And you just want to make sure you have the right colors, because it might look different to the eye than it does in real life. That's happened a lot of times when I'm drawing portrait. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to get all the colors and markers. The markers I'm using are the Oahu skin tone markers, and it has a lot of like the golden browns and kind of stuff like that, which I think is really good for the dog that I'm drawing, but you kind of just got to see what's going to work. I'm just using the swatch card, and then I'm writing down the colors on the swatches on my iPad. Okay. So these are all the markers that I'm going to use for this drawing, and I just grabbed them according to the colors of the fur. First, you want to start off and just lighten your sketch with a kneaded eraser, but you can also just lightly do it with a normal eraser. That will work as well if you don't have a kneaded eraser. So like I said, I'm lightening my sketch, and you want to make sure that you don't lighten it too much so that the sketch goes away, but you also don't want to be able to see the colored pencil through the marker. So kind of lighten it as much as I did, because especially when you go over it with colored pencils, because they're so opaque, you aren't really going to be able to see the sketch. I'm starting off with my lightest color, and that is warm gray 0.5. The darkest color that I have is natural oak, and it's pretty dark. It doesn't look as dark on the cap, but I'm just going to find the darkest spots and then put it in there. And then I also will use colored pencils and then kind of darken that up even more with like a black colored pencil or like a really dark brown. So yeah, I'd say do the lights and the darks, and then do the colors in the middle, and then just kind of blend it. Blending won't matter as much right now that you're doing markers, because you're going to do that with colored pencils. When I do this with markers and colored pencils, you want to use strokes to make it look like fur, and obviously with the markers, because they're just thicker, the fur is going to look thicker than it will in real life or when you add colored pencils, but that's okay. Just keep doing it and try and get the fur texture. Don't just kind of put in one area. I mean, it would probably be okay, but it's just going to be better and easier when you do colored pencils if you just have all the strokes with markers. Using markers can kind of be annoying especially when you have to open the lid, then close the lid, then open another lid, and then open the same marker again. But you don't want your markers to dry out. And if you do not feel comfortable using markers, you do not have to. You can probably just do colored pencils and watch the colored pencil portion of this video on its own. Just like using markers, because you won't be able to see the white through the colored pencil. The marker portion did take a long time, but you're just going to have to be patient. And I like to listen to music or watch TV, as you can see. Dance Mom's playing on my iPad. You do want to make it look like the reference, but don't stress if it doesn't look exactly like the reference, because mine does not. There are some spots where it's darker and lighter than it is in the reference, and that's okay, because it still came out and it looks really good. And it's honestly going to be impossible to make it look exactly like it. The main color I'm using is the color Morin from Oahu's. And then I'm adding some darks and lights, and also just keeping up with that fur texture, and trying not to leave any white space. You want to add in the lights and the darks and the mid-tones with that same fur stroke texture. Okay, so I pretty much have the base done, and I'm going to choose the colors in colored pencil. So I have the reference pulled up on Procreate, and I'm just going to use that and kind of compare the colors and try and find the right ones. I'm using the Caran d'Ache colored pencils. So now I'm just trying to find the right colors. You want to find the mid-tones and the darks and all those kinds of colors. And then you do want to use the same kind of strokes, and they are going to be thinner, but that's just going to make it even better, because that's going to make it look more like actual fur, because actual fur is thinner. It's like a hair texture. I mean, it pretty much is hair. You can see I'm using this black glove kind of thing. You don't have to use that. I just was using it, and it's not really for any particular reason. It's not really going to help the drawing at all. Anyway, I was kind of just jumping around the fur, mostly the body, and just using the right colors that I thought, and just doing my best to kind of make it look real and not leave any white space. The warm gray 0.5 does look like white space, but I promise you it's not, and it's just the lighter fur. And then I'm doing the eyes, and I know that this isn't really fur, but oh my gosh, the eyes turned out amazing, and I'm only using really 2 colored pencils. I'm using black and this pretty dark brown because I already used a lighter brownish, and I feel like that just made the drawing really come to life. And you definitely have to have the white highlights. That's just a tip for whenever you're drawing eyes. But anyway, back to the fur. Drawing fur or hair is pretty different than drawing anything else out of colored pencils because you're going to press harder than you normally would. With the darker colors, because you do want to kind of blend them into the lighter colors, you aren't going to press as hard, and then unless it's closer to the top. And then you're going to take the lighter color and then kind of just fade it into the lightest color. And then with the lightest colors, you're going to press really hard, just so that you get that finished look. And that's just kind of what I'm doing here, and I'm using white to kind of blend it all as well. You don't usually do that, and then I'm working on the nose and the tongue, and I'm just using a marker base for that as well. You can see that I didn't draw the teeth. Don't come at me for that. I just did not feel like drawing the teeth today. And I didn't really leave any space for that, so oops. But anywho, I am using a few colors that I didn't use on the body, for like the underneath the nose area. I'm using like a French gray. Okay, so as I'm doing the time lapse, I don't know if you can kind of tell, but basically what I'm doing is I'm laying down the darkest color. So let's go over here. So this is the dark area, and I've done that with markers. So I'm gonna get my pretty dark colored pencil, and I'm using a Caran d'Ache. I can't really, and so I'm pretty darkly doing it. I'm not doing it like you would draw like lips or a cupcake or something like that. I'm not layering because it's fur, and like it's just gonna be lines like sharp, things like that. So I'm not doing it super hard, but I am doing it decently hard, because then the lightest color is what you want to do it the hardest with, because I mean it's the lightest color, and then that's just gonna kind of be where it blends, and then that's also gonna like make it look real. But yeah, here it is so far. You kind of just want to see like what colors there are, and then lay that down. And yeah, I'd say just start off with the darkest color. Like find a section and then start off with the darkest color. So like what I was doing when I did like the body is I would use the dark color. I'd find like one of these sections, because that's what I did, and it's curls. Find sections like I did at the top, and then you want to start off with the dark, and then just layer lighter colors over that. And it is going to take a long time because you want to get it all smooth so that it looks real, but it is going to look really good when it's done, and it'll all be worth it. Another thing I would say is you need to find like a base color. So I'm using these two as my base colors. So I have this one from Caran d'Ache. I'm pretty much only using Caran d'Ache colored pencils. They're just the colors that work well with this drawing that I like. I could probably find it in other colored pencil brands, but this is just what I'm using. And then I'm using these two for the main colors. You can have like one or two. And then I'm using the darker colors, and then I have this one as like a mid-tone kind of thing. This is a little bit darker, but it's not like my darkest, because this is my darkest. And then I am using a little bit of black. I do want to try and kind of steer clear of the black, except for in the mouth, nose, eyes, of course. And then I'm doing it. I did a little bit of black right here, which is kind of probably the darkest part of the fur, just because of the shadow the ears cast on it. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say right now, and let's keep drawing. Now I'm doing the ears, and I'm doing the same thing that I was talking about. One thing that I will say again is that you want to use colors that are all in the same hue. At first I was using this brown that wasn't really in the golden brown hue, and it kind of looked a little bit weird. So you want to make sure to steer clear of that. And also once you start doing it, you will get the hang of it, especially if it takes a long time. That's kind of the perks. Anywho, now I'm just doing the background, which is just black. You can do whatever you want for the background. I'm using pan pastel. I would normally use markers, but obviously I'm using pan pastel because I have pan pastel, but it is really expensive, so I don't expect you to have it. And then in the parts where there isn't black, I'm just using a colored pencil for it. It's not ideal. And then I'm spraying it and adding the highlights, which I don't know how I feel about it. I feel like it is okay though. And just extra fur around it. And again, just trying to make it look as realistic as possible. I am really happy with how this turned out. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope this tutorial was helpful and that you know how to draw fur from now on. And yeah, I hope you guys like how this turned out, and thank you so much for watching. Bye!